Welcome along to Hearts for another great conversation. And today I am so happy to have Nereeda McInnes here, who has been amazing for me to meet along my journey. And I really hope that if you haven't come across Nereeda already, that you will take the time to go and check out all that she offers after this. And I'll be putting all of her details below in the show notes. But Nereeda, you are a mentor and you have a lot of background in kind of helping people work through things. And so in that mentoring, you've come into it in different ways. You are a writer, you've written a book. You were just saying that, that book may have been written differently now, but it's a wonderful thing to have. And also you have your podcast. And so Nereeda McInnes is an amazing podcaster, and it was actually how I got to learn a little bit more about you. And then you invited me to come and speak on it. So that was amazing for me. But welcome along, Nereeda, and thank you so much for joining me. And would you like to share anything else about who you are and what you do?
Thank you, Sarah, for having me on the show. It's so awesome to be here and just be connected with you. I'm just stoked to be catching up with you again, just first and foremost. I just think you're an absolutely awesome human. So a bit about me. I mean, you pretty much sort of covered it. I host the Rock the Ripple podcast. I've written a couple of books. I've got programs that I offer to help people step into their power and basically be all that they came here to be. So that's sort of part of my mission. I love working with people to just sort of rip off all the layers of the shit, which is the technical term I use a lot, um, just so that you can, fully step into who you're meant to be at this time, because I think this time is a very powerful time, and we didn't come here to be carbon copies of each other. We came here to be exactly who we are. And I think, this last 4 years has highlighted, but also our lifetime, we've had these programs and patterns put on us to, show up certain ways and to survive and all that sort of stuff. And that sort of stuff just gets in the way of being who we are. So when we remove that, then that's when we can shift consciousness. So not only do we rock the ripple in our own way and be all that we came here to be, we create positive ripple effects that spread further than we could ever imagine. So yeah, that's a bit about me and who I am and what I do in a nutshell, Sarah. That's in a nutshell.
You do such a good job of that. And I'm really sad that I even tried. I could have just handed over to you. But no, I mean, one thing I want to ask about is Rock the Ripple is such an amazing podcast. You have really incredible guests. I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about all the other amazing, incredible guests you have.
You were.
But what came first for you? Because the podcast is fairly recent, is that right?
Yeah, well, I think I'm up to about at this point in time, we're about 92 episodes in. So it wasn't the first thing that came about, obviously. So I've been working for myself for around almost 10 years. And in that time, I sort of started doing some video at the start, a little bit sort of dipping my toe in the water. And but to be honest, I never thought I would be doing video. I didn't think I would have my face on the screen. I thought that I would just write little posts and that all the magic would just happen. And yeah, no, that's it's been an absolutely massive personal development journey for me, and that is sort of what kicked me off first into everything that I do. Sort of years and years ago, I got into personal development, and it was just this understanding that I could actually want more. I'm allowed to, like, it. I know it sounds so stupid now, but at the time I didn't realize that it's okay to actually want to create something different. And so that was sort of a game changer for me, but it's been a long journey, and it's always unraveling. But yeah, so along the way, that's sort of where my passion lied, and spirituality and all that sort of stuff, and just slowly removing the layers and all that sort of stuff. And um, yeah, to then sort of working for myself. And um, the podcast, I guess, came in sort of, I guess, a couple of years ago now. Well, it's not even a couple of years, is it? I can't even work that out. So that's maybe a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
it's still a fair time.
well, it is, yeah. Still a fair crack of the sauce bottle, as they say here in Australia. Uh, but yeah, so yeah, and then I just had this download. Like I'm just like I knew that I had to. Well, I had played with different podcasts before and just played around, and then I just knew I'm like, okay, let's do this, let's do this, and so I just just followed that download and that intuition, and then just kicked things off, and then it started off just myself, and then I was like, okay, I want to start talking to people again. And yeah, my first person was Dale Holmes, and he was amazing. And then Donovan, and then it just sort of kept going from there. And I got to connect with so many amazing people, and it's just been so fun. And I feel really lucky and blessed to be able to do it. And because it's a lot of work too, like as you would know, doing a podcast, it's not just recording; it's like getting all the notes, it's setting up the times, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, but it's been great. I don't even know if that answered the question. Did it answer
It
the question?
answers a bit of it.
Yeah.
But I love a few things that you said, and you're always inspiring. And one of the things about your podcast is every episode, you you actually are such an amazing listener. Like you really listen to people and you let people speak their kind of full bit before you add in, and you always have so much to add. So I'm amazed that you can, hold it all back, because I feel like I don't do a good job of that sometimes. But and also the fact that you have, honestly, there are people who we say to each other, let's do this. And we are literally like using Nereeda quotes when we do
Yeah.
things. So, but yeah, they're really beautiful conversations, and you've got such an amazing energy, and your guests always come in and meet that so well. But yeah, so that's how that kind of transpired. But so, what were you doing before you started working for yourself?
Yeah, so I worked my very first full-time job, believe it or not, was at a footy club, one of the AFL footy clubs here in Australia. And I was really lucky because this team had just started up. So I was learning from the ground up. I was very green, a very different version of Nereeda back then, I gotta say. Quite cringeworthy, but still, it was me. I was young. Still am, obviously. No, and yeah, so there was just an amazing training ground. Like I got to learn, we started in Adco huts, so it wasn't even the proper offices, and I got to learn how each different department worked because I started off doing a traineeship, and so I learned a bit about finance, a bit about marketing, a bit about how administration, all that sort of stuff, and it was a real blessing for me to be able to do that. And I stayed there for quite a while, and I ended up in sales and marketing and in the sponsorship department. So basically, my job was to look after the sponsors, make sure they were happy, and making sure that all their stuff was done behind the scenes and all that sort of stuff. So that was great. And then I did a very short stint in recruitment. And then following that, I worked in an advertising agency where it was more about putting ads in papers. So again, managing accounts and making sure people's ads would appear in papers. And that soon along the way became a creative agency as well. So I got to learn how all of that worked too. So and yeah, I was pretty loyal, so I was there for quite a while, and then I thought, my soul needs to do something different here. If I stay here, something's not going to go right. It was just dying basically, and so I just, without a website, without anything, I ended up leaving my job, and I used to say it was like I needed to be thrown into the middle of a lake, a freezing cold lake, and I just needed to be thrown there and just swim to shore. Like I just needed as they say, a circuit breaker, obviously, but just this change. Like I was just pulled. So if I look at my numerology or astrology, I'm sure that that time would have said, yes, you got to do that. And yeah, and then I just went for it. I just really had that intuition, that knowing that I have to do this. And I know it doesn't make logical sense. And, you know, along the way, I was like, man, this has not made logical sense at all, but I had to follow it. And so that's sort of what I've always done, is follow my intuition and just see where it takes me. And sometimes, yeah, it doesn't always make sense. It doesn't always make sense, but you know, you just, if there's that pull and you ignore it, I think that's when you really start to suffer. So you don't want to stay in that place, you know, you want to be able to go, all right, you know what? I got to go for it here. So I did. I ripped off the Band-Aid and I did.
Yeah, that's so brave. I mean, and you have that kind of energy too of being just so courageous and, allowing yourself to think bigger and be different. So I love that about you. Um, One of the things that you said earlier was that it seems crazy now, but that thing of not knowing what you want. And I think that's massive. I think that's possibly one of those things that makes you a really good mentor, or just somebody who really can shine a light on how to make change. And it's that thing of like, yeah, people don't really get the time to sit down and think, what do you want? If you ask somebody what they want, I some of those answers are going to be pretty surface level. And I think it's one of those big, that's the big question, isn't it? Is like, you may not even know what the answer is, but shouldn't you at least have the opportunity to sit there and think about that?
Yeah.
So you did, and you you did, and you did. And so you just threw yourself in the deep end. But you've got this natural affinity for what you're doing now. So I guess you must have carried some of those skills and learnings into what you're doing. When did you step into the coaching side or the mentoring side?
Yeah, so while I was working still, I did a life coaching program, and I knew I wanted to do something different. I just didn't know what it looked like, and I was even looking at personal training, which is hilarious because that is not what I would be doing now. But still, anyway, um, yeah, I think I was really fit at the time. I'm getting back into getting fitter, but anyway, it's been a big year. So yeah, so yeah, what was I saying? I did that. And what was the question again? What got me into it? Oh yeah.
How do you get into the mentoring?
Oh yeah. So that, I mean, I've always felt like naturally people would come to me and ask me questions, and I would listen, and I wouldn't necessarily give answers, because I know ultimately it's not me who's got the answers, it's the person sitting in front of me that's got the answers. So I would hold space, or um just ask questions, different questions, to get people to think in different ways, and to maybe different ways that they hadn't thought of before. Because I mean, you know what it's like if you've got shit going on, you're like inside the wine bottle, and I can be out there looking and seeing things from a different perspective. And that's why, I mean, it's always so much harder when we're looking at our own stuff, because we're in it. But if you've got someone there to sort of bounce ideas or reflect things, or ask questions that might trigger you, but or challenge you in a good way to get you thinking a different way. I mean, to me, that's the most powerful thing. I mean, that's how we learn and grow. So I've always had that passion for that sort of stuff, and naturally. So I guess it makes sense that that's what I'm doing now. And it's fun. Like, I love it. And I love seeing people light up. I love seeing people do the thing that they came here to do, because I know for myself, like, for such a long time, I really squashed, sort of, tried to stay in a box and do things the right way and this and that. And it's such a ongoing process to remove that sort of stuff, so that you can let your light shine. And then, so when other people are doing it, gives permission for other people to do it. And I do feel like that there's a lot of us here that have come here to see this shift in consciousness. So we got to just get rid of that stuff so that we can shine. So I guess that's why, sort of, yeah, I guess I'm so passionate about what I'm doing, and why I sort of got into that in the first place. I think, yeah, it just felt like where I should be going.
Yeah. And you've done such a good job of creating a structure to doing that.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing I appreciate is that, there's lots of people who can kind of talk about their experience and share that and be a person who maybe holds space for others to kind of come along on that journey. But you actually have created a really good container for helping people to do that. And so I'm going to join up with the quarterly shift. Well, how do you put it? So it's the
Shift
frequency
club.
shift diary and
Oh
then
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's
So
shift club.
shift, yeah. So I mean, I'm creative, so I like to change things up a bit. But it's called Shift Club, and
Yeah,
it's a quarterly thing. I don't know how else to say that. It's quarterly.
yeah,
So what I've done is set it up so that depending on what people can do at the time. So there's an email only quarter, so they'll get emails each week and they can use the journal, but if they can't get access to the journal, maybe it's not in their budget this time or whatever, they'll get downloads so they can get the printed off and do it that way. So I've kept it so that people can do it. And then the second option is Shift Club Connect, where we meet 4 times in the quarter, and we catch up and we connect with other people doing the work. We've got a private Telegram group. We support each other to get shit done, basically. And ride the wave, because sometimes things do prop up out of nowhere, and how do we navigate that as well too? So yeah, that's what I'm doing. You've just gone bright white, so something highlighted on your screen.
my computer decided to do something.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, well, I want to join the Shift Connect Club because I think that the idea of having that freedom of the quarterly thing, then you can step into it and step back if you're not, if it's not the right time for you.
Yes.
But I really love that you I mean, that's really lateral thinking, isn't it? Because there's so many people who are creating things where there's this kind of pull, you have to do like a yearly subscription or something like that. And
Yeah.
actually I've used well, I've encouraged my clients at times to look into what you're doing, because I can see that some of the people that have been coming to me, and I'm doing the body work and some of the spiritual guidance stuff, or not guide, it's not guided by me. So, whatever the messages are that are coming through,
Mm.
I can see that that might be like great. It might be meeting a need, but there is a much bigger need for like almost like a full fundamental belief shift.
Mm.
And that's where I think that your stuff can really help people, because you can't often, like you said, you can't often see things when you're in it. You need somebody else to have a different perspective. So just the fact that you've created this entire structure where you are, creating a different perspective and then asking a question and then allowing the person to go through that is, how I perceive it to be. So I think
Mm.
I think it's such a wonderful way to do it. And I haven't come across anybody offering that before.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I got to say, like, I'm the same. Like, I hate being locked into a subscription. Like I like freedom. I like to be able to pick and choose. If it's going to work for me this quarter, awesome. I'll sign up. But if it isn't, I'm not. I don't have to feel like, oh, I'm locked in. And so, yeah, for me that was really really important as well. So basically, I mean, I'm offering one-on-ones now too, but this is as a group. So even if you're just doing the email, that everyone's doing it at the same time. And I'm looking over here because that's where my journal is. But so you've got the journal, and that has a structure in it. And anyone who does use the journal also gets access to the frequency shift portal, which it has everything in there, how to make the most of the journal, because it isn't just a journal that you open up and write in. Like it's got quite a process. And I do it is a framework too, so I know there's different people using it slightly different ways, and that's okay. It just provides that sort of blueprint for you to work with it in a way that works for you. So that's really important for me too. Like as I said before, freedom is important. So if we've got a framework, it's like you've got a blank canvas, like a house. How do you want to design it? How do you want to set it up for your life? And then we do things like create our frequency shift activation, which is helping people to reprogram their subconscious mind for their version of success, whatever that looks like for them. So yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, I think that the fact that, oh gosh, now it's gone out of my head. But when you were talking, well, we were talking about belief, and for me, I think one of the big awarenesses or learnings I've had in the last 4 years has been to learn how to become flexible in your thinking, and how important it is to hold on to that flexibility above belief, because you can have a belief and then you can find out something and all of that is shattered. And if you're too attached to that belief, then you feel that you yourself are shattered by that. So when you come into something and say, well, I'm allowed to see things in a different way, and I can, there's a possibility that this could be true or that could be false, or, and then everything is up for conversation, and then you can have conversations with people you don't agree with, and like all of those things become possible. So I think that what you're doing there is literally it's like creating more flexibility in somebody's awareness or your belief system, or that, I don't know, how do you talk about it when it's not your belief system because you're letting go of the belief, but just to have the flexibility of thinking and to be able to say whatever comes along, I can shift to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's so key, isn't it? Like because when we are stuck, like exactly what you just said, when we're stuck and we think that's the only way, we just, there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go. And like it's about our own life, but also the world. Like if you think, that's when you're stuck, because then you're not open to new ideas, new downloads, and anything coming in. So it's like going, okay, well, what if that's wrong? What if what I'm thinking isn't true? And what if these thoughts aren't even mine? Where have they come from? Like it's just like looking at that as well. So and I mean, ultimately our biggest project is us. And so if we work on us, everything else flows. And so I think that's where the power in lies as well. So yeah, totally agree with what you're saying there.
Yeah. And also that was where I was meaning to head with that, was that often when you have kind of systems, or when people come up with ideas about how they can support others to do that, often it feels like, it may not be true. I think I have this deep suspicion in me about all things. And I'm like, I don't know if I believe you. But like, so if somebody's coming to me with, here's an opportunity to try something, often I am suspicious that there's a catch, that there's another motive at play, or there's an agenda, or they're trying to hook you into something where you become a follower and they become your guru or whatever that is. And that's one thing I love about, because I've got to meet you as well, and I just know that for you, that you take real joy in seeing people just free themselves up. So I love that about how you've created all of this stuff, is that, again, like the quarterly thing, it's not a subscription for a year. And and I can tell when I talk to you and when I met you that there's no ulterior motive. There's no like you have to follow. And even though I do follow you, like I follow the podcast and I love all those things, I never feel like, I never feel like I'm not worthy of having a conversation with you. Sometimes I think I don't have much to say that would be worthy. But,
Come on, Sarah.
but I love that about the way that you've done it, is that you are so much more inviting and open with everybody.
Yeah. Well, because we're all the unique pieces of the puzzle. Like that's the thing. Like, and I know I've heard different people talk about this. You project up and you project down, and when you're looking at people, and I mean, even like back in the days when I was working at the footy club, like there's a lot of people that put these people on a pedestal, and for me, like massive respect to everything that they're doing. But I'm like, you're kicking a ball around that's filled up with air in leather, like like it's just like we're all people. We've all got stuff to offer, and I think that's really important. Like we all go to the loo and do all that sort of stuff, and that's the thing. So yeah, I don't know what we were saying, but I just ended up talking about the loo. Excellent.
It was going to end up there somehow.
Yeah, it would have eventually. Let's be honest.
But yeah, no, I just think, yeah, I wanted to honor that of
Thank
you,
you.
because I just love that when I see what you're doing, and when I looked at your diary when you sent it over, and it's so open. It's like there's just, and some of the words you were using, you talk about downloads, and I'm thinking, is she meaning these downloads? You're like, no, you can download it from
Oh
the
yeah,
site.
oh yes, but yes, those
And
the
the
PDF
portal, and I'm
downloads.
like, oh yeah, there's a portal.
Yeah.
It's like this opening up to all of this possibility. And
Mm.
I think that's one of the lovely things that you bring to it. So when you do speak about downloads and portals, there is two meanings to it, because you really are opening up so many opportunities for people to just step into themselves.
Oh, that's cool that you said. I like that. I like that. It's true though. That is true. We're always walking through portals, and we're always creating our own. We're aligning with different frequencies and stuff like that. So, yeah. Thanks, Sarah. You rock.
Oh, you're welcome. I mean, you've given me so many gifts. You gave me the Galactic Midwife from your title from our talk, and I've
Yeah,
been using that on Telegram. I've got a little Galactic Midwife page now.
that's so
Um,
cool. That's awesome. I love that.
and I think those are the things. We're dropping these keys in for each other and figuring out what this is all about. Um, and there's so much to be discussed, because we just don't know.
Mm.
And we're always on a path of like learning whether we kind of lean into something or we don't. And one of those things that I was talking to you about earlier is like the galactic stuff and the interdimensional stuff, because, when we're talking about how we see reality, well, everything's open for discussion now, isn't it? Because we only come into it with, like, we create a reality through agreement, and there's so much agreement. You wouldn't think so in the world, but there's so much agreement in the world that we've literally manifested a plane that we all share and integrate into. But yeah, there's so many other things going on, and so you've had some amazing guests. I know you've done your QHHT sessions, and yeah, like, how do you feel about how do you feel about reality? What do you think it is?
It's
That's
nuts,
a little
isn't
question.
it? Oh, what is reality? No, I just I mean, I think like it's just for me, it's been an unraveling. And like I was saying to you off air before, like I've had these different experiences, where I've seen something walk through a wall, and had these different moments in time where you just like, okay, something's different here, and those interdimensional, I guess, experiences, and the dream state and that sort of stuff, and those sort of things, I don't know, they just open you up. Like even on some days, like I remember I was listening to someone talking about on a podcast, maybe a couple of years back now. And they're like, when you're looking at the trees, even the trees look different. And I was really like, I know I freaking love trees. And I was really just noticing, like, I was at a petrol station, believe it or not, and I'm putting in the petrol and I'm looking at these giant big trees, and I'm just, you do look different today. What's going on? Like, what are we seeing? Like the different like little pieces like making up the vision that we're, because I mean, ultimately we're such powerful creatures. Like we are creating this reality, but we're co-creating it together. We're creating our own individual experiences, but we're playing in a pool and of with everybody doing the same thing. And then that's why that we're having these collective experiences. But even then, on the collective level, we're having different experiences based on the frequency and the reality that we're choosing to sort of agree to, as you said, that offer that to, and yeah, so to me, this time we're in, like, I mean, from, I guess, and now I'm not an astrologist. That's something I would love to get even more into. But I know at this time, like, it's um, everything is shifting and changing, and like we're in the most potent time to be on this planet. To be, not only are we witnessing all this stuff, we're creating it, And so we're the star of the show, we're the spectators, we're like, we're
Mm.
the observers, all that sort of stuff all in one, and it's so exciting and crazy. So I think um, ultimately, like the more of us who are aware of sort of what's going on to the level that we can be, that's that's fun. That's exciting. Like, I mean, and that does not take away from the absolute shit that there is too. But it's being able to uh, see it all and observe it, but also play, but not like you said at the start, not be attached.
Yeah.
So because what will play out will, and we can sort of control what we've got to ourselves, like, and the rest, it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's there up for the taking, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know if at the Living Free Festival, did you go to the Saturday morning where there was Qigong?
Was that with Adam?
Yeah, I
No.
think so. He did
Yeah, I
Qigong
had
and
him on the
then
podcast the other
I know
day.
I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, no,
Don't
I wasn't there early enough to do it. I was off site, so yeah,
Okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah,
yeah.
so it was a beautiful experience and um he started us off, so he was talking about Qigong and about how I believe that's right, yeah. And that he was talking about kind of um it was like a phrase and all the meanings behind it. But as he was talking, he got us ready to start. So we started kind of like closing our eyes down and breathing in. And he was talking about, breathing in from the base and right up through to the crown.
Mm.
And I'm going to do such a disservice to him because I've forgotten everything. But in that moment, he also said, energy never moves in a straight line. It always spirals. And I thought that was such gold for me. And
Mm.
that day, I went and sat on the lawn before the speakers were on. And I was just lying back on the grass and watching the clouds. And I noticed that the clouds too, they just do this beautiful spiral thing where they're just moving. And as they were moving, they were showing me pictures of things that I'd been listening to on the stereo as I drove down there the day before. And I was like, wow, this is a real moment for me, it was like, oh my God, like we are so much in co-creation that literally when I look into that, what is basically the water in the sky, and watch these clouds, that they are showing me things that I will recognize. And as soon as I thought that, I looked away. When I looked back, there was this beautiful love heart in the clouds.
Oh,
And I thought that is such a good example of how much we are in co-creation. We know that our water within makes up such a huge part of us, and that water holds intention. Well, why not the clouds responding to that? And there was just so much going on. But I thought that was an amazing it was an amazing piece of wisdom that he shared that morning,
mm,
and that carried me through. And there's so many people I wanted to share that with, because even with the ley lines, when we talk about ley lines, and the old way of describing them was straight lines of energy that run through the world.
mm,
But when you look at when Rachel teaches and she shows you, where you find portals and ley lines, there's the growth of the trees and the bushes all become circular. Well, that
mm,
just tells you that energy's spiraling, right?
mm.
So anyway, that was my little whew of tangent.
Oh no, I so love that you shared that. That's beautiful, and it's so true, isn't it? And just to be able to, I mean, the energy there was amazing, and then just to for your experience, thank you for sharing that, because that's just there were so many moments and special things like that. And you and I, we got to sing together as well too, which was like the water
Yeah.
song. That's what we were singing,
Yeah,
and
the
that was just
Algonquin
so
water song.
yeah. That's so beautiful, like, and that was, special as well, doing that to, east, north, west, south, yeah,
Yeah,
was it
yeah,
I'm trying
we
to
weren't
remember
sure. We started with east, ended with west, somewhere in between.
somewhere. That was so good and special though, wasn't it? It was
It
just
really
awesome.
was. And
Mm,
also, not just for the fact that you and I finally got to be in person together and to do
mm.
that, and with your lovely friend, is it Katie?
Emma was there.
Oh,
Emma, I think
Emma.
it might have been. Yes.
And Bri wouldn't sing.
Yes. She did the
But
she
so beautiful for us to take that energy, to go to the water, sing that song, and to bring our gratitude into that place
mm,
in a way that, I mean, I'm sure we were both doing it individually, everybody's doing it individually, but
yeah.
yeah, like you said, it's something special to be able to do that together.
Mm, yeah, it really was special, and I think the energy there and just seeing each other and just all the people in real life, like nothing beats it, does it? Like, but at the same time, I mean, so grateful for technology. I mean,
Yeah.
technology is ultimately it's a tool. It can be used, it's like a knife, it can be used for good or evil. And the good that it's brought to be able to connect with people all over the world and then to then meet people in real life, it's just so cool. It's so cool. Mm,
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, that was a really good example, that festival of, you know, agreeing to create something different together,
yeah.
because that was done in a different way to any other thing that I've ever been to.
Mm.
And yeah, it had that feeling. I mean, it was only 2 nights, right?
Yeah, 3 days, 2 nights.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 nights.
Yeah.
And then on the Sunday, I was like, oh no, oh no, I've only just got to meet all these people, and I didn't know where I was going to go next. So I had
Mm,
that kind of like moment of, everything's out there and possible, but to leave this warm cocoon of safety with all these people who have come together with the same kind of the same kind of general consciousness, I guess.
mhm.
And then to think, oh, I have to go back in the world. But I have to say, I mean, this is my experience, and I know it's me coming into Australia from a different country, but
Mm,
I left there and I just had the most beautiful experiences with everybody. Like,
yeah.
I was like, is this what Australia's like? Or is it, maybe it was a hangover from the festival? Because it was great. Like, I had amazing conversations with people. People were friendly everywhere I went. Um, but yeah, maybe that's what we did. Maybe we created that ripple out.
Yeah, but and also it's your frequency, Sarah. Like people gravitate like to that, they match your awesomeness. So I think that's what happens too. So, well, it definitely happens. Yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, so that kind of creation aspect to our reality is probably a better discussion, isn't it? Rather than what it is, because we don't really know.
Mm,
What can it be,
mm.
is probably a better discussion to have, because we have the power to choose.
Yeah, we do. We do have the power to choose, um, and then we have the power to choose from where we're at. And if we want to choose better and make better, then we become better. So we can only choose. We've got free will to choose from where we're at that time, but that might be under the beliefs that we've got at that time. So it's a continual process as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been playing with that idea a bit lately as well. But I mean, all we can do, all that really exists is right now, like this moment. And so, yes, we've had past things that have shaped us, but if we want to create different in our own lives, or for the world, then it all starts now. So we have to choose to align with that frequency now, whatever that is that we want to step into. We want to get fit, let's look at what that looks like starting now. Like
Yeah.
you might not be feeling fit and healthy, but you start acting as if you are from this moment. And that's what creates the change. And so, yeah, so if we want to see humanity thrive, then what does it look like for us to thrive in our own lives? And thriving for everyone looks different too. Like I mean, obviously it's being healthy and feeling good and being able to manage your emotions and allow yourself to also feel the pain and the shit that you need to go through too, because otherwise you're bypassing stuff. And then stepping into that frequency of what it is that you want to want to do and be and experience in this life, what you want to embody. And yeah, like I said, it looks different for everyone. I had something else and it went in and then out like you
It'll come
before. I'm
back.
like, okay, well, if it's, yeah, meant to be, it'll come through.
It'll be a boomerang.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just a fart in the wind, Sarah.
Um, oh yes, I had some little revelations while you were speaking then, and now they've gone too. They went
It's
the
funny
same
how,
way.
yeah. Yeah, well, because there was something else as well. Um,
Oh, I
yeah,
know what I was gonna be the
yeah,
little black cloud. I was gonna say I am. Sometimes I feel like I am the little black cloud on somebody else's, happy day. Because
yeah.
there is that element of having to go into those places where there is pain and grief and just allowing that to happen too, because like you said, that bypassing thing is a big, it's a real balance, isn't it? Like we've got
Yeah.
to hold with what we want and stay in the frequency of loving optimism, I
Mm,
guess. But there are some really serious things that need attention in our very 3D reality. While we're still hovering in the 3D, we've got to kind of acknowledge some of those things. And I think that's where it gets really tricky sometimes, because it's easy to go into the high vibration and that place where everything's looking and feeling hopeful.
mm.
But yeah, I was wondering, how do you think you navigate that? Because I had this conversation the other day with somebody about, it would have been somebody had shared something, and I would have said, I'm not sure about that. And ultimately, I did it again this morning with another thing, and somebody said, well, ultimately, all these things are for the good. And I do essentially agree with that. But it was something about, it was a spiritual bypassing kind of, that was a channel that had been shared, and I just said I
Mm,
think that's spiritual bypassing, and somebody asked me what I meant by that,
mm,
and my explanation was, well, I think that we have to deal with the reality that we're in as well. Like we have to deal with the reality that you know for the sake of argument, this is the most important thing for me, is that children are still being hurt and
mm,
abused in this world, and that's not okay by me. Now, there's lots of things happening in the world that aren't okay by me,
mm.
but that's one that I feel like I have a real stake in. Like I want
Yeah.
all the children to be safe. Most of us do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I was trying to kind of say, I believe that you can have that conversation, and it doesn't have to come from a place of fear. That should come from a place of love. Like we should all be coming from a place of love and saying, that's no good, and I won't stand for it.
Mm.
Um, but of course, trying to bring that into a conversation with people when we're talking about spiritual bypassing and all those kind of things, we do you feel that we do you feel like we do kind of skip over some of the hard stuff a little too often?
I think sometimes we do, and like at generations before us, especially, like part of their indoctrination, especially, is not to talk about emotions, to keep things down. It was quite controlling. You do what you're told, and then then you're a good girl or you're a good boy, and that's sort of, yeah, not to not know how to sort of express feelings and to be able to process that sort of stuff. I think there's a lot of people that have been, for generations, that's been what it is, and we're in a generation now where we have so many tools at our fingertips on how to navigate and heal. Like, so many of us are wanting to heal, and healing is, it's a different path for every single person. And part of that, I think, is learning about what's going on in the world. And absolutely, I stand with you that no child should ever be harmed, ever. Full stop. That's it. Like, done. Like, that should never happen. And when we're, so if we're spiritual bypassing isn't going, like, some people might want to sweep it under the rug because it's too much. It's too
Mhm.
much, and the cognitive dissonance is too far. It's too hard to look at. But in that, if that's the case, then there's something there probably for that person to look at. Why can't I see this? And it's not like you want to go and watch a horror movie, but some of this stuff really is. So then it comes back to, okay, there is some really dark stuff going on. What can I do about it? And that's when people start to feel helpless. They think, well, I'm just one person. What can I do? But that's the thing. You are one person and you are so freaking powerful. You are so freaking powerful. So when you do the work to love yourself, to give yourself the love that you would give those children, that is making a difference, because we're energetic beings, and we are, so that stuff that makes a difference. I sometimes I can't put it into words, but we're that powerful. So when we are able to have those conversations, like, it's not easy to look at. It isn't. But so come back to us. Come back to, well, what can I do? I know that I can show up for myself. I know I can give myself the love that I would give any child. Any child. I can be the healthiest version of me. I can fill my cup so that I can support others. Like, then you're still doing the work. And the other part of spiritual bypassing, I feel, and it's like, I'm thinking, how do I say this? But it's like when you've got your own shit and you're not looking at it and you're putting it under a rug, because you think, well, I'll just give it love and light and then everything will be okay. But that's not how it works. Like, all of us live in this world. It isn't all love and light all the time. And that's unbalanced as well.
Mm.
Like, if you look at the yin and the yang, like, you've got to have, there's both sides. So it's about, what else can we do to help the children, is to look at both sides of all parts of us, the parts that we're not really happy with, the parts that we're not proud of, the parts that, to be honest, if we had our time again, we would have done it differently. But
Mm.
those are the things, they're there to teach us. They're our opportunities to grow. And if we give love to ourselves for doing the best that we could at that time, and then do the work to go, okay, well, I know I won't do that again. And then you have compassion. Like, your compassion just grows and grows, because you can see when someone does something, you go, oh, mate, I did that too. Oh, I can understand how shit you feel, but I promise it won't last, and that, you won't do it again, or whatever it might be, whatever it might be. And a lot of that too is just how we've been talking to ourselves as well. Like, just, there's no way that we would talk to a child the way that we sometimes talk to ourselves. And that's why I'm so passionate about that sort of stuff too. It's like, no, 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 become aware of what you're saying and how you're talking to yourself. And that's all part of it. Like, it's all connected anyway.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't know if that's answering the question or not, but I know there is tough stuff going on. So I guess we can go big picture and then go, okay, well, what can I do? And it
Yeah.
always comes back to us, because we're here. That's all we can do.
I think that's such a beautiful answer. It is, because that's the thing, is we get into these, sometimes I feel like I am the dark cloud, because I'm like, we've got to talk about this. And
Yeah.
then I'm like, but but actually probably in those moments it's like, I need to take some time right now to go and be with myself and look after that part of me that hasn't been, that I'm not looking at, that I'm that I'm trying to sweep under the rug. So you're really right on there. And yeah, and I think that's really helpful, because it does give us a bit of perspective. Like, there is shining a light on something and then responding to it in a really autonomous way, which is to take ownership of your own self and to take care of your own self and
Mm.
and that child within you. Because one of the things I was going to say is, we are essentially all a child, right? Like, we're the child of somebody else. um it's like our animals are our children, like, well, they're not our children, they're our companions, but like, the same thing applies. We wouldn't have harm done to anybody.
Mm.
And when we look at a child, we should recognize that that child is like the full expression of love and their full self, without all of the shutting down hope, probably not at certain points, but they're their full spirit, in full bloom, and we don't want anybody to ever not be able to be safe to share that.
Mm.
But you're quite right, like that makes me feel better, because I feel like even sometimes, I guess, I can harshly judge that outside of myself, but it's because I'm probably feeling very guilty about doing that myself, like looking at something, not knowing how to be helpful and practically useful. Um, and yeah, and to take it back into that kind of like, do your work, come back to yourself, don't sweep it under the rug for yourself as well.
Mm, yeah, yeah. And there is a balance too. That it doesn't mean don't talk about it. And like if you've got a passion for it, always follow that. But it's like that dance, isn't it, of doing your own stuff and then get it, because the information needs to be out there. It's like the spiral, like Adam was saying, like you were talking, like we've just
Yeah.
got to keep doing the stuff, and we'll see ourselves in the mirror, and then something else will come up, and then like, so yeah, it's it's such an amazing adventure that we're on.
Yeah.
And if we can see it that way and see like the different parts of the adventure that are coming up for us, like, and to be able to just to look at it and see what it is in that moment, I think that's
Mm.
also very powerful as well too. And yeah, allow yourself, like, doing the work isn't, like I've always said this, it's not always sexy and fun. Like, you will have times when you're sitting on the carpet. I'm just giving you a perfect example from my life. And you're just like doing the big, like that big cry, that one that just comes out. You're like, what the fuck is going on here? But also, that was inside me, so I'm letting it out. Like, I don't have to do it on camera or share it with the world, but I'm allowing myself to express. And a lot of us, when we push that stuff under, we're not letting ourselves express. We don't The whole world doesn't need to see it, but it's part of being human. Like, we're not just the happy, like, that is our, I believe, our center point. Like, that is where we're supposed to be. But if there's something there for us to experience and go through, we got to do it. We got to
Yeah.
allow ourselves to do it, and not judge ourselves either. Just, okay, I'm having a shitty day, or this feeling like I'm going through grief. It really, really sucks,
Mm.
but it is part of the wave, it's part of the ride. And if we push that down, that's when we're putting things under the rug. And yeah, so there's all parts of it, isn't there? There's
Yeah.
always layers. There's not just one freaking answer or thing.
No, but it's that infinity wave thing, isn't it? Like, you've got to swing out that way and have that experience in an extreme way, and go out there and have that experience. So that whether that's, laughter and sadness or tears, or, and hopefully, exhaust that experience, so that you can come back into the middle and be present, and, and find some peace within
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, because ultimately it comes down to loving yourself. So you can go through those things, but you're doing it in a place of love for yourself. Like, it might be a tough thing, but you still love yourself.
Yeah.
Like, and I know, like, I've spoken about, with a couple of people on the podcast before. Oh, love yourself, blah blah blah. But ultimately, when we do love all the parts of us, like, it's so freeing, it's so empowering, and we get to just be the massive goobers that we are, and just show up exactly as weird as whatever we are. And um, I feel like that gives people permission to do the same, because yeah, otherwise we're just a hive mind doing the same thing as everyone else, but that's not what it's supposed to look like, you
No.
know? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really that's a really good way of putting it. Or yeah, because they're big topics, aren't they? They're, these things that really kind of call to us emotionally. And when we look out into the world and we say, well, that's, ostensibly, if I choose to turn on the television and look at that, it can all look pretty terrible, and I can feel very guilty for not being, I don't know, somehow more obviously out there and standing against it. But that doesn't do anything. I think that's what the news and all of that stuff has been trying to siphon us into, is this kind of guilt feeling, and it all comes from a place of feeling fearful because we can't control it.
Mm,
But we do have the capacity to come from a place of love and all of those things, and to, like you said, love yourself first,
mm,
because what you do for you will ripple out. But yeah, there's such a fine balance,
mm.
and yeah, I'm really glad to have asked that question, even though it was clumsy.
Was it clumsy? My answers are probably clumsy, but I feel like, and when you love yourself, that like, I mean, and I mean, I don't know if people, but you wouldn't let anyone hurt anyone.
No.
So, let alone yourself. So the more like, yeah, because and I agree, like it is that dance. People, it's important that this stops, the the terrible shit stops, and then it's coming back to how because like you said, guilt, fear, shame, that just holds us in a lower vibration. But if there's something there for us to look at it, let's see what it is. Let's dive into it. Let's get in the mud. Let's get in the mud. Let's just put our goggles on if you don't want to get in your eyes, but you might. But and just see what you need to do, and see what you can do, and also just be so gentle on yourself, because every day and every moment is an opportunity for something new, and we just have to, yeah, just take one step at a time, sometimes one breath at a time, sometimes, and just yeah, be kind to ourselves on this crazy adventure that we're on.
100%. And one thing is apparent to me is that people are starting to really step up very quickly.
Yeah.
And we need each other to do that. So whatever works for people to do that is important, but we're doing it in relationship. But yeah, these kind of new, I would say, gifts and abilities that are coming in for people, like things like, here's a toilet story. I was sitting in the toilet the other day and I just felt like it seemed like there was a sun in my toilet, in my like little bathroom, because there was this intense color. Like it
Yeah.
was golden yellow in a way that, I wasn't on anything, so I couldn't figure it out. I was like, what is going on? The color is so intense. And I've had that happen a couple of times outside.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it feels to me like we are coming online with these, this new wider perspective, or this, even if it's like a wider spectrum of color or sound or whatever it is. So there is a lot to be really excited about, isn't there?
Mm.
Like we've still got to do all that stuff, but it's not like so linear as it used to be, I feel. And do you think that's true? Do you think we're doing things all at once now?
Yeah, yeah, yes, probably. Well, I think everything's happening right now, but I like the toilet thing, I can relate. Like how many how many downloads do you have in the toilet? Let's be honest. In the shower as well too. But like the amount of yeah, I mean, some might call them synchronicities, like my abilities to tap in, and like just being like, maybe I'm like thinking of a person, and yes, they've just text. I know that that happens, but it's just been off the charts. Like, and to the extreme where I'm like, this is just nuts. And also having those knowings just of so many things. It's just, yeah, it's really cool. And even experiences like you're saying, like I'm even hearing sounds as well. So, and also just different vibrations in my body as well. I don't know if you're getting that. I'm just like, well, that's unusual. It's not like an ailment or whatever. It's like, okay, that's something different right now. So am I getting an upgrade? What's going on? Is there like an earthquake? I don't know. But so I agree. There's all these sort of things that are happening, and so noticeable if you let that be. And I think because so many of us are um, stepping into more of who we are, we're allowing that to come in, because it has been a bit blocked off. So I guess the energetic shift for internally, but also collectively, is seeing all of that happen? Do you think that's happening too? Like it's just the
I
shift in
do. Yeah,
consciousness?
like totally. I think when you were talking about trees before, and I was just thinking this morning when I left the gym and I looked at these trees that I walk past quite often,
Yeah.
and I just went, oh my God, they're just like, I want to go and I want to wrap myself around that tree because they're just so beautiful and huge and, such a silent witness to all of these people rushing around and, like crazy ants.
Yeah.
But yeah, that it feels to me like there's so many opportunities for us if we take the time to actually stop and acknowledge it and open that relationship to nature around us or the people around us, whatever that is.
Mhm. Yeah, it is. I went somewhere on the weekend and it was this beautiful place and they had just trees everywhere and there was this gorgeous like yellow leaf tree. I don't know what it was, but I was just like, as soon as I got out of the car, I'm like taking a photo, and then I'm like walked up to it at the end of the day and just like had a little chat. Like it's like, yeah, you look pretty good, and then like had to tell all the other trees that they look good too, so no one felt left out, obviously. Just the usual stuff. But it's just it was so good just to be so in that place of just nature and just being, and you're right, I love how you said that. They're like the silent witnesses to everything that's going on, yet they're communicating to each other and they know exactly what's going on, and, um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very cool, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's a great time to be alive, and there's so many things to be thankful for. And like you said, everything's happening right now.
Mhm,
So it kind of makes sense with that spiraling energy that, like you said that again about we could be in that point and being mirrored to ourselves what we need. But yeah, also that we can be coming online with all this stuff, working all of this stuff out, and it's
mhm.
all happening very quickly. And we were talking about that when we came on. It just feels like there's so much going on. It's probably because we're right in the middle of the vortex of it all.
Oh, we are, yeah. We're gonna stand there, so if we put our arm out, we might get taken. So, it's important for us to remember to be a bit tree-like, I reckon.
Yeah.
Flow with the breeze, but also stand strong, I think.
Yeah, get rooted.
Yeah, get rooted.
Well rooted.
Hey, Sarah, get rooted, would you?
Oh, look, hey, I'm so grateful that you've taken the time to come on and talk, and I'm really excited about what you're doing. I can't wait to get in amongst it and take my time to do it.
Yeah.
And is there anything else that you want to share with anyone before we close off for today?
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me, Sarah. You're a bloody champion. I'm so grateful and honored to be on your show. So thank you for having me.
Oh,
For anyone who wants to connect, obviously they can go to the website, nereedamckinnes.com. On there, you'll get access. There's a link to my free app, the Frequency Shift app. So you can use that to kick things off, reprogram your subconscious mind for your version of success. There's awesome tools in there. I've also just relaunched my one-on-ones. So I've got a mentorship for people who want to get down and dirty and hang out with me like for once a week for 8 weeks. Or there's just one-on-one sessions as well. So there's quite a variety there for people to tap into whatever feels right for them. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Obviously, my YouTube channel is Nereeda McInnes, and that's where the Rock the Ripple podcast is. But yeah, join the newsletter. You'll get to hear everything then. So that's on my website. So thank you for letting me share that too.
oh, thank you. Yeah, that's so good. You're such a marvel. I don't know how you're managing to do it all, but I'm really glad you are. And I'm really glad that I've gotten the opportunity to connect with you again.
Oh, thanks, Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you. Um, yeah, hopefully we'll get to talk to each other again in the future.
Absolutely. I'll be making sure of it, mate.
Thank you.